Good evening and welcome, Sharpies. I'm Tom Cunningham.
I'm Joy Stevens, and I'd like to announce a return to form. First in the room, Anthony. We see
Anthony
you.
Turner, he's back in the heezy.
Welcome back to the top, bruh. But within moments, yes, yeah. People on your toes. Good afternoon, good evening, Vivian. Glad to have you in the house. But like Anthony says, we are ready. We are ready. Let's go. We got a
And
lot to talk about.
we sure do. And we are introducing a new feature just to help everybody keep tabs of everything. We are going to be announcing the segments and putting that information on the screen. So it'll help keep us on topic. It'll help keep you informed. And we'll let you know what's coming next as we proceed to the show. So at the top of our show, we have Donald Trump and his legal woes that are mounting. My goodness, old Donald. Uh,
I am experiencing a little bit of Schadenfreude here because I am like the smile that hits my face every time I think about what's going on with him. Like,
all my Freude is Schaden. I am so Schaden up in the Freude. It is great. The first big news that came out this week is that Donald Trump was slapped with. Now, get this. This would be something that would upset anyone. But imagine being the lawyer for Donald Trump, notorious for not paying his bills, when you've been slapped with a $982,000 fine for a frivolous filing of a lawsuit in the state of Florida, his home state. So
yeah,
let's be clear. He was filing a lawsuit against Hillary Clinton's campaign in 2016
yes,
over their story and allegations about collusion, which, to be clear, Mueller, although he did not choose to indict, he did find that there was actionable consequences to Trump's behavior. He just
right,
felt he was constrained by the idea that Trump was a sitting president, and so he could not say
right,
that you couldn't act, that you could act on it. But he was very present and very clear that there was lots of bad stuff going on. And so, of course, Trump decides he's going to file a lawsuit because
mhm,
throughout the course of his mediocre existence, he has used this tactic when he was a financier of some
mhm,
report and a powerful person and da 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 da. It's been his standard operating procedure to
right,
file lawsuits. And finally, a judge said, "Nah, bruh,
right.
nah."
Which I'd like to look up the history of that judge to know who seated them, and
Mm.
you know, because
Um,
one of the things we talk about all the time, we talk about elections for president, for governor, states, for senators, state senators, etc., is a lot of these people and a lot of these places are responsible for filling the judicial branch of their state, federal, local government and everything. And so who's putting these people in? Because Trump did get a whole lot of whack job. Well, that is exaggeration, a whole lot of extremely conservative to moderately conservative people on the bench while he was in office. But Obama did the same thing with the liberals when he was in office, and it runs back. It just depends on, on that retirement cycle, how many seats you got open when it's your turn to pick. And that trickles down. Like when a state starts going from red to blue or blue to red, you see those changes at the judgeship level. And this is an example of how that plays out. I'm sure he thought, I'm rich. Nothing's going to happen to me. Also, when we talk about systemic disenfranchisement and systemic privilege, I'm not speaking about race here in particular, because the same system that he has used to his advantage to sue whenever he doesn't get his way, or to counter sue because his money was long at one point, to outrun somebody else's lawyers. If you got a small business and your annual budget is, $500,000, you can't afford to continue a suit when they keep throwing stuff up against you. And he's
right.
done that to a lot of people that have sued him for lack of payment. It'll be interesting to see how this lawyer does. But yeah, he's an ass. He is a whole ass, not just an asshole. And go ahead.
No, well, I was just going to say, if I had to guess who appointed him, I would say it was probably Governor Zero Fucks,
Mhm.
because right now Trump is finding in this person someone who is so strongly against that bullshit that he has decided to withdraw a suit against Tish James.
Yeah. Yeah,
because
when you realize that your bullshit ain't bullshitting no more. Yeah.
and also it's the same judge who was presiding over the Chase
Yeah, go on,
lawsuit.
sit down. Go on, sit
It was
down.
like,
'Cause
go
it
on
ain't
ahead
gonna
and
go
rack
either.
up another milli. We're good. And unfortunately, his lawyers were faced with the look. I can't have a disciplinary action on my record asserting that I am a bad lawyer. That's not going to help me. I mean, I need this job.
Right?
And so I understand that you don't need a job at present, but I sure do. And since you're not paying me, and since we're not winning, this is not something that's doing a whole hell of a lot for me. So we go slide to the left, slide to the right, crisscross, pay that $1 million fine. So that is one of the many challenges that Trump was facing. It also appears, since he's screaming perhaps a little more subdued into that dark night, as he turns into everybody's octogenarian neighbor standing on his lawn, cursing children passing by a bicycle.
You sons of yeah.
He's threatened to return to Twitter finally. He didn't need Twitter. He was welcomed back to Twitter by Elon Musk last year. But no. Truth Social. But he has no reach in Truth Social. So nobody was caring about his rants on his quote unquote truths that he was truthing.
Not even a little bit.
Not even a little bit. Not no penetration. It was like, I said that on purpose. It was prom night at a Catholic girls' school. So
I mean,
well, it depends on the school. But he was having a whole lot of trouble keeping things on track with the truths. And poor Devin Nunes giving up his congressional seat to head Truth Social, and it's turned into a raging dumpster fire. And as Anthony says, it might be sporting of Trump to actually get rid of all of this drama by just admitting it. Look, it's true. I'm done. I can't do no more, and just letting it happen. But of course, that's not going to happen. He's still depending super duper foolishly that he's going to be the nominee. And so we want to make sure.
You don't know that he won't.
Well, I know he won't, but
he don't know he won't. Though.
He
he really
won't.
does think that he is, like, he believes that he is infallible and always right, and all the other things that are lies.
Yeah, I mean,
he is a walking Dunning-Kruger example.
Oh, absolutely. He is so Dunning. There's Freddy Krueger.
Silly.
But this is what we've come to expect. And fortunately for us, he gives us at least one segment a show to keep talking about, because he's obviously the center of the GOP universe, which has resulted in not a few problems for the people who just took over the House with a razor thin majority. We're going to be talking more about how thin that majority is a little bit later on in the show in a segment that we are calling "What the Hell is Santos Doing Now?" But Donald Trump, in the midst of facing additional prosecutions in New York, Fani Willis has shut down her special grand jury, and it may be that very shortly she's going to announce indictments with a regular grand jury. And they're also looking into the presentments that special grand jury might make. There are some special rules that I found out about thanks to one of my favorite podcasts from the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. And so we will see. It's called Breakdown, and they've been tracking Fani Willis's prosecution. They tackle all sorts of cases that take place in Georgia. They did a great job on the Ahmaud Arbery case, and so this is their follow-up podcast to that. And it hasn't been as gripping as some of these things because, of course, Fani Willis's special grand jury, we didn't get any real insight into what was going on. So they didn't have the kind of stunning testimony that has been a hallmark of their excellent journalism throughout the years. But now that the special grand jury is done, it looks like we're going to be seeing some motion, and that is definitely not a good thing for Trump. He is desperately uninterested in having that be the case. And so with that being the case, it is truly unfortunate. It's truly unfortunate for Donald that this is where we are.
Fuck that dude.
Later, fuck Donald Trump.
Right.
Do you have anything else that you want to say about Monsieur Orange Foulious?
Orange, you know what? Cheeto Mussolini. No. Well, I want to, in a tangent, I want to say you said he gives us like a segment every show. That's the problem.
Exactly.
Stays in the news cycle, always up to something. And not only is he an attraction, he is a distraction.
Yes.
Right? Oh, he's the stink bomb in the gym that makes everybody leave so you don't see them set real bombs later. You know. Oh my God, what is that? What is he doing? Why? And then we argue back and forth on who's a patriot and who's got sense, et cetera, et cetera. Meanwhile, Congress is like, let's slide this raise in. Let's slide this destroying the water in. Let's let corporations pollute rivers and stuff again, all of the stuff while we weren't looking. That's what tends to happen.
Well, I will say before we segue into our next segment, because you brought up patriots, and that's a very good segue. One of the things that has been not knocked off the headlines, but certainly not receiving the amount of due that it probably should, is we have reached our debt ceiling limit, which means we can't officially borrow anymore. And some of the ignoramuses in the House are saying, well, we're going to ask for spending cuts. That's not what we're doing.
No.
We're paying Donald's bills at this point, the almost $8 trillion he added to the debt. We're paying that. We are obligated to pay it. You're not negotiating for more spending. You're negotiating really for more borrowing to pay for the spending that your guy did.
I feel like we should just default on all our loans and just have bad credit for 7 years and then make a comeback. You know, that don't work.
I mean, it's pretty hard to buy tanks on 457,000%.
We don't need no tanks. Look, man, I know a dude up on Crenshaw that can fix them tanks for like $50 a pop. We doing way too much, you know.
Get them contracts online.
You just need Roscoe. Roscoe know how to work on tanks, right? He had a toy tank when he was little. He could do it.
Roscoe Chicken and Tanks.
Tanks and waffles.
Tanks and waffles. So we mentioned patriots, and that leads us to our next segment. Semper Why?
No. So sometimes the internet can be used for good. And sometimes all of this big brother nonsense that so many people are against, they forget it does help you identify folks. And 3 people, Marines, and for those of you out there who are in the military, you understand why I paused when I was like, Marines were found to be part of the January 6th attempted coup, right? There were 4 of them? Oh, okay, well, there's 3 in this picture. Right. So when I was looking at the picture, I was like, so let me show you these 3. You've got, as a matter of fact, if I can take that banner down, I'll show you their names.
Hold on, I got you.
Thank you. You can, from the left, in the back with the red hat, you got Micah Coomer. In the middle, Joshua, either Abate or Abate. We're going to call it Abate.
No, we're going to say Abate, bro.
Joshua Abate. And then up front, you got Dodge Dale Hellinan. I'm going to take a moment. Dodge Dale. Baby. You know, is that a toupee? It looks like a fake piece of hair up front or the absolute worst bowl cut in the 2000s. Like,
I mean,
this picture says, I've never smelled a girl. Like, what is really going on?
It looks like he has one of those passes to Nazi supercuts. It's just.
I promise you he cut his own hair. I promise you.
Well, that angle, that sideways slash just indicate he's either like a Flock of Seagulls super fan or like his scissors were just tilted as he was looking in the mirror, or like grandma came in and said, "You need to get out of the basement, son." He's like, "But grandma."
Right. My gosh. But yeah, I will say The haircut does say a lot to me. It tells me why he was there. I mean, you're in the Marines. They will cut your hair for you.
Free.
For free.
High and tight.
And Mark, yes, he does look like Mo from Three Stooges.
Huh?
It's exactly Larry, Curly, and Moe is who I just had a picture up of.
I thought he was talking about Mo from The Simpsons. But where he definitely wasn't going on January 6th was to his girlfriend's house.
No. Or partner, or whomever.
Oh, well, to be fair.
Yeah. I mean, that look just screams, I'm the only one touching me. You know?
He touches self. He wants insurrection. I won't say the natural second line that you
Please
say.
don't.
I won't, but it rhymes with insurrection. But the challenge is that these were people who swore an oath to uphold the Constitution, military training, some of them having access to better than normal. It wasn't just, steak knives or memos, or chow time. These were some people who had potentially some access to some sensitive,
extremely lethal tools. Yeah,
exactly. And here they are running through the Capitol with those haircuts,
attempting to overthrow the very government they swore to protect.
Swore to protect.
That's a big fucking deal, y'all. This is not a game. Like,
it's a bastion.
Yeah.
Of democracy, the People's House.
Now, Chan makes a good point. He says they probably thought they were upholding their oath, because you do, swear to fight against all enemies, foreign and domestic. And if you think your government is its own domestic enemy, then there is a case to be made for that. I'm not going to do the defense's case for them. But at the same time, who the hell you listen to? Who told you that? Why do you believe that?
See, there's that part. Where is your commanding officer that said, let's go? Why weren't you in uniform?
Right. If you get in a bar fight,
right,
off duty, you are in a lot of trouble. So
because you're denying,
why do you think you should be out there?
But you're denying the use of your body and the government investment in your training, in your arming, in the responsibility that you have to actually defend the country. If you take yourself off the table, that is a waste. And so I'm not sure, since this isn't a military prosecution, I don't know if they're going to end up in the military jail, if they're going to go to Gen Pop, if they've already been dishonorably discharged. I'm not sure what the disposition of their.
I know they're in trouble.
They are in trouble right here in River City.
Right here.
And that's not a good place to be.
And
they
didn't have to be. Again, I've thought about this because in my, conspiracy theory, the world is about to end, a post-apocalyptic, we're about to be living like the Walking Dead, Gilead, like all those things swirl in my head. And I think about our military. We're about to talk about something in a second, and where I could foresee, under the right circumstances, one state attacking another state. Now, if that happens, what side does the National Guard go to?
Right.
State against state. That's like trying to break up a fight between your kids. Like, you can't just hit one, but you can't really hit both. Like, what do you do? And you have people like this where if all hell really does break loose, they're going to abandon their post, as it were, or end up fighting. So now you got Marines, Army, Air Force, Navy, Coast Guard, Space Force, all of them on both sides, depending on which ideology they follow, the United States Constitution or the world of Trump being God, so a lot of people have fallen victim to that cult of personality that we've talked about before. And people in the military, we know that a lot of police, a lot of government officials, they could spin off their own country. It's not outside normal possibilities.
Well, and the interesting thing is, I was watching Abbott Elementary last week, and it kind of reminded me of the scene where Quinta's character was trying to break up a fight between her two students rather, and each of the girls went and asked their big sister to come in and fight the other big sister.
That's what you do. I'm gonna go get my sister.
And so Ava had to jump in the middle and try to separate them. And that's exactly what you're talking about. We've got states in this country. We're going to be talking about 2 states very shortly.
Let's go ahead. Matter of fact, that plays into what I'm talking about. So next story. Yeah.
Let's go on ahead. We're calling this segment, "Don't You Get Pregnant in Oklahoma or Arkansas, y'all." Not if you weren't trying to, anyway.
Right.
I mean,
so
God bless all Arkansans and Oklahomans where the wind comes sweeping down the plain. If you were trying, that's a blessing. But baby, don't get caught on the wrong side of a one-night stand if that nightstand doesn't have plan B preloaded into it. Because they have just tried. Joy, you go ahead and take it.
So for those of you who have been following this, Oklahoma and Arkansas are the most recent states to crack down even further. They already had abortion bans. They've gone even further to say any pregnant woman that is suspected of seeking abortion care or seeking to terminate a pregnancy early, even if it's a miscarriage, because beyond at the first trimester, there's no scientific distinguishable characteristics between an abortion and a miscarriage.
Correct.
Which means there's the potential of a woman who desperately wanted to have a child, not being able to carry the full term, ending up in handcuffs because they want to make sure that she didn't seek an abortion, and it will be impossible to prove. Can you imagine losing a child that you wanted and then doing time for it? That's where they're headed. Now, both laws
of A Handmaid's Tale.
Yes. Now, both laws have, I want to say, rape clauses in them, or
life of the mother.
Life of the mother.
Not even rape. It's life of the
mother. But what we've already seen in other states is where the mother has to be flatlining for them to do something about it, and that doesn't make any sense. We are throwing away 100 years worth of medical knowledge in the face of irrational, quasi-political, quasi-religious beliefs. Nobody does. This is stupid. This is really stupid. And the reason I wanted to bring this right behind the Marine thing is I can foresee a situation, especially if there was a rumor at one point that the Native American reservations in Oklahoma were going to be offering feminine care for women who needed it because they are a sovereign state on their land. I can see Oklahoma chasing some 17-year-old white girl because it's going to be her, right? I can see Oklahoma saying that you didn't have a right to take her and blah, blah, blah. She's being held captive and something. We go and ride and get her. And then some local yokel gets shot for trespassing. And then that turns into a whole Rosewood, right?
Kyle Rittenhouse is available and out on the street. So
true that.
Not difficult to see how that might happen. Chan says, there was a TV show called Designated Survivor. I did like that show. Kiefer Sutherland.
They blew up everybody except the Speaker of the House or whatever.
Yeah, and Kiefer Sutherland was like Secretary of Transportation, bathrooms or something.
It was something that don't show up to work every day.
Exactly. Everybody else got screwed up, and he was the guy. And then it turned into a whole thing. It was basically 24 at the Capitol.
Yeah,
pretty much is what it was. But you know, the governor controls the National Guard, but the rest of the armed forces are federal. So to your point, the sovereign state of all of the indigenous tribal lands where they do have sovereignty afforded by the federal government. And it's interesting to see. I don't know if any of you all have seen some of these YouTube videos or these Instagram videos where cops, regular old state cops, try to come on tribal lands. I saw this one where this tribal dude was like, nah, get the fuck out. And they were standing there trying to take something. He said, no, this is our land. This is our country. You need to leave right now. And the little white female cop is like, I guess we gotta go. And they just kind of back off. But when you have those sorts of rights, you can assert them, then you need to go on ahead and do it. And this is exactly the scenario, because states like Oklahoma, where this exists, some of these conservative states where these indigenous lands have been turned back over, and they are, it's better than an embassy because it's large swaths of land.
Right. Once you cross over into a different color turtle, you good.
Right. And this is what we're looking at right now in our country.
But also remember that a lot of, what is like, I think it's like 2 guns for every person.
Right.
Or there's more guns than there are people in the United States. A lot of those are in red states.
Oh, for sure.
Of which Oklahoma is one. They could wage a siege if they wanted to.
Right.
And then the question comes, who helps the sovereign nations?
Correct.
Or do they just watch it all burn the same way they did Rosewood, the same way they did Greenwood,
Street,
Oklahoma.
Yeah,
the same way they did Central Park. Like they will watch them burn and then be like, well, nothing to be had for it. This land looks good. I'm selling it for $50 a square foot.
Right.
That'll be next.
It's we are doing very good of not traveling off into tangents, but you did say Greenwood, and so I'm going to pop up and do a brief commercial break for Greenwood Bank. If you are a Black person who wants to invest your dollars with other Black folks, get an account at Greenwood. They're doing some pretty cool things over there, and they have all sorts of different accounts. I signed up. Luckily, I found out about it pretty early, and I put myself on the list, and I now have an account. So I'm very pleased, and I think we could do a lot worse than to invest in our own financial institutions and support things, especially ones that are clearly in recognition of that which was stolen from us as a people. Greenwood Bank. Look for them online. Yeah, get you some.
Right. But that's another point, is that one of the other sometimes issues with, same thing with credit unions, but also with locally owned small banks, like most Black banks tend to be, is that they do lack that digital infrastructure to be as easy to use as, Wells Fargo, they got an ATM every 15 feet. You can do, I have a Wells Fargo account, I will admit that. But it is extremely useful and easy to facilitate anything you want to do with it. However, Greenwood, having been born, if you will, in a time where digital infrastructure is an expectation, they're a lot easier to deal with than some of the local banks that may have left a stale taste in people's mouth around 2014, 2015. Was it 2016? When all of a sudden everybody's like, I'm going to give me a Black bank account. And then they ran into trouble. I know I got one in Houston and they ate up all my money in fees. And I was a little miffed about that. But Greenwood is different.
And I'll say, for those of you who have questions about where they banks at, and listen, you know where your bank is? Your bank is in your ATM card, because you can do digital transfers from any other account that you have. If you set up direct deposit, then just like you don't deposit your check with direct deposit, it goes right into your bank account. And then guess what? If you need to use the money, you use your debit card. So it's the same thing with Greenwood. If you are in a position to, begin to divest a portion of your income. So for instance, I've been setting aside money in my Wells Fargo account. Well, I can divert that money that I was saving in Wells Fargo. I can put that in Greenwood, and I'm just sitting on my Greenwood money. I'm not using it because it isn't right now my major bank. I haven't transferred my major salary into Greenwood, and they are personal accounts at this point. I was trying to set up a business account there, but that infrastructure is still building. But if you use a card for most of your transactions anyway, then go on ahead and get you your card. And if you want to use like an electronic funds transfer, you get a routing number, you get a bank account number, so you can use it in exactly the same way you'd use a regular account. You just know that you're banking with Black people. You just know that you are supporting Black businesses because they're investing in Black businesses.
And the invested in Black businesses part. This is why it's a good reason to have an account with them, because that's how banks lend money and make money, is all of those personal checking accounts. They'll take that, go invest it, make a little bit off of it, put it back. They move your money around all the time. And they also use that as capital for loans that they give out to small businesses, the very same small Black businesses we always trying to go and support on a Friday or whatever.
Right.
And having an account there, even like Tom said, you just sitting on the money. You can do a Christmas account, savings account, something. But when you have capital in their banking infrastructure, they can use that as part of the backing for a loan for somebody else. It's all FDIC insured anyway. So go ahead and put your money there.
And if this is the last thing I'm going to say on it, because this is an extended segment about an unpaid commercial for Greenwood. I said unpaid for now. They own the Gathering Spot. So if you have been to the Gathering Spot in Atlanta, I actually helped to produce an event there. It's a great thing. They have one in LA. There are a couple of them. They also have like this special kind of tiered thing where if you really baller like that, and you want to hang out with the Black intelligentsia in your community and all that, they have different tiers. So, you know, I wasn't going to spend $200 a month just to say I'm cute and special, because I'm already cute and special. But with Greenwood, you do have the options of doing some really cool things that are designed, you know how Black folks like to be exclusive and all that. So rather than buy Louboutins, you can have your little special Black card that's all metally and stuff, and do cute stuff, especially if you're on a coast like Atlanta or Los Angeles. So consider Greenwood. Thank you, Anthony. That long-term growth. We can't just talk about supporting our own. We must act and invest in our own. And so that's where we are on that, which takes us into, let me just look at something real quick. I want to make sure from a content perspective what we're great. Okay, we got a whole lot going on there. So we are now to the point in our show where we are ready to tackle, close your ears, story. And our big story this week is Ron DeSantis versus AP History. So I went to school in Florida. And of course, CRT is a stalking horse that DeSantis and a whole lot of other ignorant and completely underinformed GOP polls have been using to try to say that Black folks who want a proper reckoning of the actual history of the United States are trying to be woke and convince little white children to hate themselves and all of the foolishness. It's untrue, but DeSantis got elected by a huge margin by saying a whole bunch of these lies. And this week, they did something which has never before been done, according to the College Board, in the history of the College Board, which was to deny the introduction of an AP course in African American studies in the state of Florida. Joy, take it away.
That is the most ridiculous thing I have ever seen in my adult life, right? And now here's the problem with that. There are AP classes for Italian culture, Japanese culture, I want to say European culture, of course, European history, classical history, et cetera, et cetera. There's AP courses for all of that. But African American studies doesn't get the same respect because African Americans don't get the same respect, specifically in the state of Florida. And to say something as offensive as this curriculum lacks any educational value, what you're saying is Black people don't matter. Black lives don't matter. You are specifically saying that. And you're telling in the same mouth that can say, we don't want to do this because it hurts little white kids. What are they going to do if they don't see themselves in the history book? You're literally saying Black people don't deserve to see themselves in a history book because what have they ever done except all the things that we stole from them and put in our history book and said we did because we were able to write it because we used to kill them if they could read. All of this. Then again, Japanese culture, European, Italian, British culture, et cetera, doesn't leave a stain on America the way African American history does, right? When you specifically, you can do African diaspora, you still got a stain on basically the whole Western hemisphere, right? They've been doing dirt. They did dirt. They built the country on the dirt that they did, and now they don't want anybody to know about it. But what kills me is, there's this phrase that says history is written by the victors. Mm-hmm. But the Confederacy lost. So why do they get to write the history? Why do they continue to influence the way we think about this country, right? You lost. Why were there monuments to your losing asses, right? And I'll tell you why. Because your big brother felt bad for you because you're in the same family. And that's the problem. Most wars are from country to country. Or even from, if it's a civil war in a country, it's from ethnicity to ethnicity, right? In the United States, it was white people against white people to save some Black people that neither one of them really like. One group wanted to enslave us and the other ones was sent down to put down the rebellion, not necessarily to free the slaves. Remember, that didn't come until a few years after this war had started, right? And it was done to cripple the South because they didn't free the slaves in the North or above the line of secession. They freed the slaves in the South, but they didn't. That's a whole nother story. Whole nother story. My point is, everything I just said would be illegal in the state of Florida because I'm making white people remember what they did 150 years ago. And it's not, and I do this for a living every day. I tell people all the time, white supremacy is a concept. It is an idea. It is not an identity. You don't have to be a white supremacist just because you're white. You can surgically remove that ideology from your whole being and do something different. Be a better person instead of a white supremacist. You can have pride in your history, your heritage, etc., whether it's European or Russian or whatever it might be that identifies as white when you get to the United States. Love on that. I ain't mad. Eat your mushy peas and sausage, whatever you be doing is fine. But when you say I'm better than you, and for that I have a right to kill you, disrespect you, mistreat you, abuse you, etc., traffic you, well, I got a problem with that. But you shouldn't want to do those things if you're a God-fearing Christian. All of this stuff gets turned around, right? But the fact that you cannot look at the history of the United States without saying, wow, y'all did some bullshit to them black people and those natives. Right? You can't look at history without that. And they're trying to do that. And it's what the Daughters of the Confederacy have been trying to do for 160 years. Ever since they started, after they lost the Civil War, they tried to reimagine what had happened. Antebellum is a lie. This whole idea that there were all these grand cotillions and whatnot in the antebellum South, it's all bullshit. They wasn't doing that.
Nope.
That wasn't even a thing. It became a fantasy that they tried to turn into fact after the fact.
And to have the thing that got me beyond DeSantis, because DeSantis with his little squeaky dog toy voice, it's what the Florida Department of Education had to say. This is what they actually wrote in a letter to the College Board. In the future, should College Board be willing to come back to the table with lawful, historically accurate content, FDOE will always be willing to reopen the discussion.
So basically you're saying anything that, now mind you, this wasn't something that the AP Associate, it wasn't something that they just made up today or pulled from, I don't know, Black fiction. It's not like they pulled a copy of Lovecraft Country and said, here's Black history, right? They've been working on this for like 10 years to build this class. And now it's like when they say come back with like legitimate and factual and whatever the quote was that you just put it up again. Yeah, historically accurate content means historically friendly to white people. That's what they want. They want the Daughters of the Confederacy version. Now, if you come in and say teach African-American history and say that slaves are part of the family and it wasn't that bad and they all got treated well and some Black people even own slaves themselves, we hear that all the time as a red herring for people to try to chase. Well, what happened? Why do these Black people own it? Because he got enough money to buy his wife's freedom. 90% of the time, that's why one Black person owned another Black. That's why natives own Black people too. So the only way to get them free was to buy them, because it wasn't illegal to have slaves, but it was illegal to house a runaway. But you could buy them if you could afford them, and then you had to continue to own them, right? Because if they got caught outside and they didn't belong to anybody, they go right back in the system.
Yep.
Right? So, but all of this is completely lost. The things that I know die with me if they try to continue this type of thing.
Say that one more time, because I don't think DeSantis heard it. You had to buy your relatives to keep them safe. You didn't have an option to buy them and free them, because any white person could take any unowned Black person
and put them right back in
put them right back in their circumstance.
Mm-hmm.
Hello?
Matter of fact, I went and looked this up to see if this is really true, because they talk about it in the reimagining of Roots that came out in like 2016, 2017.
Yeah.
I want to say it was a Will Packer thing, wasn't it? Yeah. This is where I first saw Reggae Jean Page too. Mwah. But one of the things that they mention is Kizzy has a free Black man coming to visit her. That's a boo thing. And they discover by a sympathetic white person that he got maybe 2-3 more weeks of coming to visit her before he's been on the property too long and becomes property himself. And I was like, that is the crazy. Look, Google. Oh, that's really real. If you just hung out too long with your friends, you must want to be a slave, and then they would disenslave you. No, and there's nothing that you can do about it because slaves have no rights. Who's going to fight for you? You couldn't even testify against a white person until the mid 1900s.
Mid
1900s.
Your
grandmama.
Right. I mean, mama.
My mama, right.
Not even grandmama. And this is one thing that really upsets me about the narrative of, oh, they hear 1865 and 1865, that's 150 years ago and 160 years ago. And so, lies. You think that, first of all, 1865 didn't do jack. It certainly didn't do jack in Texas because 2 years later, they weren't yet freed.
Right.
Or weren't told that they had been freed. And then after that, the era of lynching, go see Ida B. Wells. And after lynching, Jim Crow. And after Jim Crow, the civil rights era, voting rights, Little Rock 9, which just celebrated its 65th anniversary. This was not that long ago. Right. Little Rock 9 was a couple of years before I was born.
Yeah.
Hello?
Like, my grandmother was a teenager when Tulsa was burned.
That's crazy. When all of those possessions, those legal possessions, the hard work, the bootstrap work that people were praised for if you were white, all of that work stolen.
Let's also not forget that praise that your white ancestors got for being bootstrappers and whatnot, the government was giving out parcels of land to white people so they could settle the West and push out, all of the natives that might have been there, because all it takes is for, let's face it, a white couple, white woman, whatever, to be afraid of a native and the savages and whatnot. And then they send in literally the cavalry to come and push them even further. And so they were giving away parcels of land. And this is post 1865. And so when you have free Black men who are ostensibly citizens of the United States, they were restricted from getting any of those land deeds, right? And then had to sharecrop for a generation to pay for the land that white folks got for $0. Right?
Oh, not to mention, how many Black people got that 40 acres and a mule that wasn't
not a damn
taken
one?
away?
That was a campaign promise that never came to pass.
And meanwhile, more than a century later, some people are talking about reparations. I live in California. Give me 40 acres in California, please, and thank you. I'll be good. 40 acres in California?
Right? Shoot, give me an acre in downtown Atlanta. You know what kind of party yo?
Listen, and God bless the Bruces, the family of the Bruces that own Bruces.
Hats off to the Bruces for never stopping that fight. They never gave up.
Well, but they're selling it now, so.
But I mean that's their prerogative.
It is.
Right.
It is.
But they got it back to sell it.
Right.
Because we reached the point where, Black people don't go to the water, because we got burned out of every pool. And all it took was a couple of generations of not being able to have access to a pool to have Black people develop the stigma of Black people don't know how to swim, which we just leaned into. And now we don't want to get our hair wet and blah, blah, blah. So yeah, it made sense for them to sell the beach.
It's interesting. It takes me back to the movie about Dorothy Dandridge, where
she put her toe in the pool.
Put a toe in the pool, and they drained the entire thing. Oscar nominee Dorothy Dandridge couldn't have a cubic inch of her skin in contact with fluid that might touch
white people's. Not only did they drain it, but they ended up making, of course, the Black serving class scrub the entire bottom.
With bleach.
Yes.
So, their eyes all jacked up. It's.
But none of this would even exist. None of this ever happened, according to DeSantis. This is all inaccurate and not factual and all these other things,
Because we're woke. And by the way, the Anti-Woke Act was struck down in Florida courts, but there's still a law. And so they're exercising the pieces of the law that because the agency recognizes that they have that discretion, and so they're doing it. I am ready to move on from this topic because I find my blood pressure rising, and I really don't want my blood pressure to rise. And it allows us the opportunity to segue from DeSantis into Anthony DeValder George Santos. Right. And you know I can't resist a good segue. So this is going to bring us to a brand new, we've been beating Trump's ass for years. So now we have a new person to dog. Ooh, boy, that was a good foreshadowing. George Santos. So what in the hell is Santos doing? Now, we talked about George last week, and I know that Joy has a whole ton of photos of this clown.
No, I have a new single that's about to drop.
Oh, okay.
And I want to just, we're going to just let everybody, I want y'all to hear my new single. Y'all ready? All right, so stay tuned. How did you get here? Stop. Leave it. I'm doing it myself. How did you get here? Your ass ain't supposed to be here.
Oh, look at that lip.
You've done white pride things for the last time. Your voice said no. Your ass ain't supposed to be here.
Not Queens. Not Queens.
So just get deported and stop wasting our time.
Our time. So, man, okay. So Anthony DeValder George Santos came into most people's public consciousness after the 2022 election because improbably he was one of the seats that the GOP was able to flip. And it was especially galling because it was a flip in a blue state, not, Ohio, where a Democrat had held on, but there was a strong possibility that the GOP was going to take over. This was in a blue district in a blue state in New York. And he rode in on the backs of lying about Jewish heritage. Now, I'm going to be clear. He said Jewish. What he is now saying is that he meant Jew-ish, like blackish or older.
That's not a thing.
It is not a thing. You're either an adherent or racially, or ethnically Jewish. You're not sort of kind of adjacent to Jews.
No,
that's not how it works. But
that's not how that goes. I got to shout out Chan knows. Nothing gets to you. Staying fresh, staying cool with Santo fresh and full of life. That is awesome, Chan.
Santo fresh and full of lies.
Really, Tom.
He's the lie maker. And so it has been said, there has not been a day since he was elected and since people started to hear about all of his BS that a new revelation has not come out
daily.
And so last week it was kind of funny. This past week was kind of funny because they started catching old roommates and old flings and old whatever. And so
who are ready, willing, and eager to take time on this dude. They hate him.
This dude is so hot about his Burberry scarf, y'all. He said,
"This is why you should live a good life. Like, don't be doing people dirty, thinking that they ain't gonna matter, because that shit will come back to bite." Anybody who's ever watched RuPaul's Drag Race All Stars knows that you do not fuck over a lot of people because they will come back and bite you in the tail later.
Listen, and this dude, when I tell you, it was a Burberry scarf and I think a Burberry coat, and he was wearing the Burberry scarf at a campaign event.
And dude was like,
yeah, he's like, that's Angora. That one cheap. So that was the light thing.
Mm-hmm.
Then it was, oh, he had a drag queen persona. You said RuPaul's Drag Race. And so, of course, he had a drag queen persona in Brazil, which, okay, fine. He's an openly gay man. Yeah. Fine. He claimed mixed Black heritage.
No.
Is Georgia says no.
This is a no.
No, we're not doing that.
This is a no. There's no curl to that hair whatsoever.
No. So he's not. No. Then it was, bro, is you actually a citizen?
That part.
Because Mama is a Brazilian national. Apparently, she was in the States, though undocumented, in 1988, which is when he was born. That's 2 years after I graduated high school. Go straight to hell. But then she left. Although she left before he claimed she was caught up in 9/11. She was not in the country in 9/11. This was a part of his campaign narrative. He's campaigning in New York.
Yeah, my mom was caught up in 9/11. Blah, blah,
right. He's alleging that his ancestors escaped the Holocaust. Santos fresh and full of lies about Jews. That's a big thing on Long Island.
Not on Long Island, you don't play that game.
You don't do that at all.
You literally going to somebody's house talking about, yeah, I bought this, bruh.
That's Kanye level foolishness.
Like Jesse Jackson don't mess around in Long Island. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and thank you, Anthony, put on 2 House committees. But the thing that is perhaps most damaging to white people is that it came out this week that around 7 years ago, when he was, quote unquote, running a charity to help pets, he encountered a homeless vet, an unhoused veteran living on the streets who had a dog. The dog had a tumor.
Cancer, yeah.
And he was trying to get an operation for the dog. Now, those of us who are dog owners, dog lovers, we know that those things can be expensive. I mean, you think, oh, it's just a pet.
No, it's like $30,000.
It's still surgery.
Yeah.
Surgery on a non-human being. And so it's expensive. And so he was trying to raise $3,000. It was a GoFundMe, $3,000. And Anthony DeValder went to this guy, the DeValder charity, blah, 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 and said, I'll put this GoFundMe together. We'll raise the $3,000. Well, it's New York and it's a dog. And so $3,000 is not a lot to get, to be honest. It's nothing. And of course, you say, oh, look, this unhoused man, it's his companion.
Right. It was a great story. And it was a great cause.
Story and a great cause. That $3,000 didn't get nowhere near.
He took that money and ran with it.
He took it and ran. And while he was waiting for the money to come, the dog's tumor grew 4 times. And ultimately, the dog passed and had to be cremated. And the guy never got the money. So that's bad. That's literally stealing from unhoused veterans of the United States and killing dogs.
Yeah. Through theft and neglect. Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty bad. So bad that he had to come out with a statement that he tweeted. Very poor grammar, by the way. But almost immediately, people who are like, I mean, he's saying this, he's saying that it didn't happen, that he would never do this to a dog, blah, 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 blah. But almost immediately, it was like, here's a Facebook post from 7 years ago before anybody knew who the hell George Santos was about this story. It's not a lie. It's not something they ginned up to get you or to do. You know how many people could allege that I stole $3,000 from an unhoused veteran to keep his pet alive? This many.
Right.
Because there would never be any evidence that I was involved in something that horrific.
But you know what, Vera, I was thinking the same thing. Like maybe the pet narrative, if this is highlighted, we'll see some movement.
But that's what it is.
Yeah, absolutely. Because there's one thing you don't mess with that'll piss off an American is their dog. I mean, John Wick done 4 movies behind the dog.
I mean, and let's be clear, there was a Netflix special, Don't F with Cats. Pets in this country, man, helpless, our little 4-legged fuzzy babies.
Remember when, what was it? Central Park Karen.
Oh yeah, with the dog in the Ramble.
Yeah, and then she just yoked that dog up, and folks didn't care that she was calling the cops on a black man for no reason. But oh my God, what is she doing to that dog? They took her dog from her too.
Well, I think she eventually got it back, but yeah, they did take it from her for a while.
Yeah, just like taking kids from a parent. Like, yeah, the dog's not safe with you. The black man wasn't safe with her either, but you know.
But we
know what they care about. Yeah,
man. So I mean, that's what it is. Santos has said that he is not going to retire, and it came out this week as well that another former roommate said the reason that he will not retire is that he thought if he served 1 term in office, he would get lifetime pension and lifetime medical coverage. Again, I don't expect that the GOP should understand very much at all about civics or statecraft, but
because they don't teach that. And again,
they don't know.
Education is sorely lacking in the United States. Even the top states are trailing behind other countries. Like, we suck all the way around. We don't even know how our own government works on any level. We don't even, honestly, I see these kids out here not knowing how math works, how chemistry works, you know.
Well, but here's
knowing how to sign their name.
Here's the scoop. Bruh, the only people, well, there's nobody who gets free lifetime pension and insurance after 1 term. Not a single person. That it doesn't work. Sorry, Madison Cawthorn. It doesn't work that way. At his age bracket, he would need to be in Congress 25 years. 25 years. That's
a long bid.
Re-elections. Bruh, you're not going to survive this 1 term. Now, the reason that he has been put on 2 committees, and the reason that Kevin McCarthy can't just kick him out of Congress, because they
need him.
Special election. It would prompt a special election. There's no way a GOP person was going to win that seat again.
No.
So he would lose. It would be a net drop and a net gain, and he can't afford that. He cannot afford it with these Freedom Caucus F boys. So he's got to try to stick it out. But now that Santos, somebody is telling him, bruh, was that what you were thinking? This was your grift? You were just going to get, $75,000 a year in free healthcare for the rest of your life if you served 1 term? Now that he knows that there's really no upside, maybe he will resign. Because look, if PETA come for that ass,
PETA's coming for that ass.
And if there was a Jewish PETA vice president who is a former drag queen who works at Burberry's, you're really in trouble.
But you know what? That brings me back to my point about this is not a game. We collectively, if you want to be an uninvolved American citizen, elect people who know what the fuck they're doing, who have credibility, knowledge, experience, understanding of the law at every level, understanding of civics, pass all their history classes the first time. Stop electing people based like we're doing like TikTok elections, American Idol. Don't elect them because they're cute and they had a good soundbite. You need to find somebody that knows what they're doing for real. And the more we do this, because what happens is, this is funny. I like what he said one day. I heard a soundbite, blah, 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 blah. It's all fun and games. I'm going to vote for him because I think it's hilarious. Then I'm going to go back to being uninvolved. And you are letting the country erode away behind this apathy. And then it's a ridiculous way to show rebellion. If you're unhappy with the systems and the way they are, elect people that will change the systems through the laws that exist or through changing the laws that exist. Don't elect people that don't even know how the government works. Trump. And the more we do this, the more dangerous it's going to become for everyone, not just Black people. I'm not even talking about race relations here. I'm talking about caste here at this point. Rich are going to get richer. poor are going to starve and riot. This is what led up to the French Revolution. And we are not above that. Remember, France is an older country than the United States. We are still teenagers when it comes to the age of our country. We're due for a revolution like that at some point, especially if poor white people realize they've been had and get angry enough to admit they've been had and stop riding this train. They're going to turn. Don't be in the way when they do.
Oh, definitely don't be be in the way at all when that happens. Period. We would like to close out the show with something a little bit lighter.
Yes.
We think that probably a fair number of you were aware of what we are calling the statue of lamentations, because there's quite a bit of drama behind a statue that was unveiled during the Martin Luther King celebration this past weekend, and some people were rather disturbed. Here's a picture of the statue. Oh, sorry.
Bro.
No, not that one. Sorry, hold on. It's actually this. Now, this is the most favorable angle of the statue, because
by favorable you mean unambiguous.
Unambiguous. This angle is the angle which is designed to show, it's called embrace. It's designed to show the embrace of Martin Luther King and Coretta Scott King. And from this angle, it is designed to look like a heart. So the universal symbol of love and devotion from this angle. However, there are some other, shall we say, interpretations of what it might look like. And so we're going to take a look at one person's perspective on what she thinks it looks like.
Has anyone in here ever been out? I'm serious. Has anyone in here ever participated in the munch?
And so there's it's a long segment, and so what we're not going to do is go through all of that. But yes, it is an entanglement, and
hats off to Leslie Jones. She is doing an amazing job
on the Daily Show.
I mean, she's raw, but we already knew that.
Well,
but yeah. she can anchor. Like, they could have been using her on Saturday Night Live all these years.
Well, to be fair, she was on Weekend Update a fair amount of time. It was almost always to just talk about Colin Jost in an overly sexual way. But she does a great job, and it's wonderful that she is. I think she's the first replacement host, right?
Yes, she's up first.
So it'll be amazing to see her rotation. Looking forward to fellow Rattler Roy Wood Jr., et cetera.
Yeah.
But I'm not gonna play it again, but look at the intensity with which she is talking about the munch of what she is. Listen, I respect that is a huge sculpture. That is a phenomenal endeavor. It is difficult. I am a fan of Ed Dwight. Ed Dwight has a similar style in which he uses negative spaces to connote body parts or limbs or spaces on his figures that aren't always present. And so I get it. I think there is something to it. It is off-putting. And when I initially saw it, I did not see it from the heart angle. And so I did not know that there was an extra. God dog it, Chad. You have the nerve to say you can't be on the panel and you throw in winners like this.
Right. Come on the show, bro.
I know that's right, Shan. So I didn't fully appreciate what was going on. I was just told, somewhat context free, that this was a tribute to Martin Luther King, and I was like, and I had to look up the photo from which the inspiration was drawn.
And I think that's the issue too, is that the photo that he used was not very popular.
Well, suppose they say it's some super famous thing, but
have you ever seen it?
Well, it's from the Nobel Prize thing.
No.
And so he is embracing her. I will say there weren't many photos that immediately jumped to mind that were him and Coretta embracing like that. True. Lots of pictures of him standing behind her, or her standing next to him, or them holding hands marching, and
he could have used a wedding photo.
Well, the point is that when you take their heads away, it's less impactful as a tribute to me.
Right. It's almost like you almost got there, but then you missed something.
Well, and to the point, when I finally saw in person the MLK monument in DC, when I saw the pictures, my immediate response was, that really kind of doesn't look like him, but at least it's a full body statue. There's scale, and the vision behind how they arranged the statue as a part of the overall kind of stone, and then the layout of the rest of the kind of park and the quotes engraved in the walls. I mean, it's very clearly who he was about. And that's, to me, Chan, that was exactly the point. The context there. If I'm walking through it, and this is Boston of all places, and Boston is a real dichotomy. I went there when I was an intern after my freshman year at FAMU, and I saw more interracial couples in Boston than I think I had ever seen in my entire life, especially if you go over to Harvard Yard. But it was also such a racially stratified city.
Yeah, it still is.
I hadn't been called the N-word like in public. I couldn't remember the last time I had been called it, and certainly not by somebody that I didn't know. I was walking back to my apartment in Kenmore Square, and these guys drove past me in a car and just felt obligated to say, "Hey, not word." And I was like, "The hell?" Like, I thought like I was in Goodwill Hunting or something. I didn't know what was going on.
That goes back to my earlier statement about, two sides of the same coin fighting over freeing the slaves. People feel like everybody north of we'll just use the Mason-Dixon line. Everybody north of that line was in favor of Black people having full rights. No, they just, similar to PETA, they're like, y'all shouldn't treat those animals like that. You know? But God forbid you let a cat vote or let a dog marry your wife, your daughter. So that wasn't happening. They still saw him as a human. Yeah.
So these cats, in Boston especially, walking past that representation, I don't think it's not a famous enough post. If it was like the pointing from the "I Have a Dream" speech, if it had been that, everybody would know it's Martin Luther King.
Right. But this is, we're not going to show it. But look up Kev on Stage if you haven't seen his commentary about the show, because from every angle except the front angle.
Yeah.
Every angle except the front, it don't look like what they want it to look like at all.
It sure don't.
No.
And as a matter of fact, the very first photo that I saw of it, it looked like someone cradling a preternaturally large other thing.
Right.
And I was like, how is this supposed to be a tribute to Martin Luther King? Because I didn't see the other hands. I didn't see her hands. I saw somebody's hands cradling,
he's holding,
like a really bad poop.
It looked like, a giant piece of Play-Doh or something.
I mean, not Play-Doh, not that color
shape.
Yeah, it's not great.
Unless you're looking at it dead on the way that you showed it with the heart. Unless you're looking at it exactly like that, it doesn't track. Your mind doesn't go there. That's the only way to see that. You turn that any other way, and either, like if you go a little bit clockwise, you're gonna look.
You get that.
Yeah. And you go a little further and you get the munchy munch.
Munch. And that's the thing. It's like that beautiful sculpture in Chicago from the well, it's
bean?
called Cloud. Well, yeah, it's called Clouds, I think, because it's a shiny reflective surface. But everybody calls it the bean because it looks like a damn bean, a big shiny silver bean. And so this is, I think, almost inevitably it's like every bad statue. It's like that Lucille Ball statue in her hometown where she looks like she's coked out and she looks fake and artificial, or the Ronaldinho statue where
it's
he's
just
got this
wrong.
weird smirk on his face and it's all twisted and crazy. Or that Tupac statue where he looks like George Washington Carver. I mean, it's
oh my God.
And it's in the scale of it. So much effort. Much effort went into this.
So much material, so much time and everything. And I thank the artist for putting so much work into it. And I mean, no press, any press is good press, right? So at least we're talking about him, although I don't remember his name, but still, for me, that was an example of not seeing the forest for the trees. I think he was so caught up on getting that image with the heart and the embrace and making it look like that, particularly, that I'm guessing as to the process, because I'm not an artist, I'm an engineer. I don't do pretty things. I do numbers. But I would see a process of taking that picture, which is two-dimensional, and not really knowing how it goes the rest of the way, and only focusing on that heart and getting that angle right, and then filling in the rest. And the rest looks like somebody holding up a leg. Or a big leg.
Here's the thing.
Or a third leg.
If this, right? If this were like a painting and he used the chiaroscuro technique where this was the focus, but the heads were there, but they were obscure and kind of
abstract,
unfocused and abstract, but this clearly shone through as a heart and it's a two-dimensional thing. I could understand how it'd be much more easily appreciated. But this thing looks like it weighs like 3 tons. And it's gigantic. And there's no heads. And I just...
Because from this direction.
Yeah.
Which, as I said, this is only about 90 degrees off from the other one. You walk around the side and it's like, whoa.
I mean, shout out to Edvard Munch, who see what I did there.
I see what you did, goofball.
Yeah, that she's screaming for a different reason. I have to say that I really enjoyed today's show.
Yes.
I
like our new little banner.
I loved the way the show flowed. I love that we were able to do our classic blend of one of my favorite words in referring to our show, trenchant commentary, and also irrepressible humor, and plus with the slide of Leslie Jones. And it was great. We're going to entreat you yet again. Chan, don't do that to us. You can't be coming on here throwing grenades and then running back into the bunker.
Right.
If you go and type it, you can talk it.
Yep.
You ain't got to be on the whole show if that's not what you want. We'll do a segment with Chan, so then you can go back into the comment section if that's what you want to do. But
we are asking our Sharpies to join.
We are asking our Sharpies. We are asking our Sharpies. And so yes, Vera, they should have had a panel to review. You can be a part of our panel if you want to review the weekly news in our style. And we're going to try to stick with this format to keep things going in an orderly fashion. And
here's what we know about our Sharpies. All of y'all are highly educated. All of you are, that perfect blend of classy, bougie, and or ratchet, just depending on the day, right? All of you are self-possessed. You know, our audience is fire. I don't know why you can't do it. There's nothing stopping you. All you need is a computer. I don't even have a special setup right now. I used to have my extra camera, my extra microphone. I got a new computer, and it didn't have the drives that I needed, the slots that I needed on the side. So this is a regular ass, I don't even know what kind of computer this is, Asus or something. So all I'm saying is you can show up on the show and give us a piece of your mind, or even just look, we are both hams as well. So if you want to just sit there and listen and laugh at us, that will take that energy too. But we would like to see more Code Switch Alliance. Vera,
USA,
come on the show, Vera. You know what I'm saying?
Stop fronting.
Mm-hmm.
We do have some people lined up for ensuing weeks. We do thank you, Patrice, for reaching out to us at steelsharpensshow@gmail.com.
Yes.
Each of us is able to receive messages at both our own personal pages or at the Steel Sharpens Steel Facebook page, or even the Observations page. We look forward to having Chuck join us again next week. But we are so thrilled to continue to provide this show and to be a part of this community in the way that we are. And we look forward to many, many weeks to come. We have to do a count. If any of the Sharpies, by the way, want to go through the exercise of figuring out how many episodes we have done in this format, because Chuck and I were doing shows just as a podcast, and then we started doing shows before the Sharon and Joy era. And so we know that we have got to be getting close to 100 shows, and we'd love some assistance on figuring that out for us, because, you know, frankly, we both got like real jobs and stuff. And so if there was somebody who'd be willing to help us out, that would be super duper great, because we'd love to do something really special for episode 100. And even if
what it is,
we just don't know. Every week we talk about it in our offline chat, and it's like, somebody gonna go count. So the YouTube page is a good place to start, but we didn't start streaming to YouTube at the beginning. It was Facebook, and so
we were maybe 6 months in before we went to YouTube.
It was a long time, and so we really need to figure it out. But that said, do you have anything else before we sign off, Joy?
No.
I'm going to give you the option, because I know last week I almost stepped on your last joke.
Yeah.
But I will say, with that, I am Tom Cunningham.
I am Joy Stevens.
And this is Steel Sharpens Steel.